Howdy and welcome back to Ethelred, the worst Civ player on YouTube. How did I get a Lancer? I don't want a Lancer. I don't need a Lancer. Where did you come from? Somebody gave me a Lancer, right? Somebody? New city, yeah. Mbanza Congo. Alright, well, I mean, if I have to. I'm not... Just come out here and patrol things, I suppose. Alright, so, Ivan the Terrible. Today's Ivan the Terrible. It's really cool. Lots of fun with Ivan the Terrible. But in the meantime, what are we doing? We're just going to kill innocent units that have nothing to do with anything. Yes, that's what we're going to do. Innocent little Inquisitor units that have nothing to do with anything. And we're going to... we're gonna build some Cossacks. Where's my Cossacks? 1, 2, before the Brandenburg Gate. Okay. Other than that, let's see if we can do something with these units here and figure out how we're going to array everything. Also, science, we're currently doing rifling. After rifling, remind me, we're gonna go get dynamite for thingamajigs. Artillery, yes. And then we're going to move against Ribe, which, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, literally. In fact, in the meantime, since it's going to be a little while, I have to upgrade things and build units. Let's see if we can get some kind of really... No, we can't get any kind of good piece of unit out of them because he has nothing. Let's let that turn roll then, because sometimes they're kind of spiky on how much money they have from turns. They may be -9 one turn and doing great the next. You know, +10 the next turn. So, golly, I'll be so happy to get this stinking unit back home. Alright, 1535. We're going to talk about Ivan throughout this entire episode. It's going to be a little bit more free-form. I'm just going to kind of extemporize about him as we go. His dad, Basil III, as I mentioned in the last episode, set aside his wife of 20 years because she was barren and he wanted an heir. And he picked up this pretty little Serbian girl and was really totally smitten with her. Nice, more salt. That's why I got this place, is because salt. And the Orthodox Church was outraged with him. And they had kind of a curse of a prophecy that they declared for him. And said that, hold on. You gotta do something to become friendly enough with these guys to get stuff. That did not do what I expected it to do. I expected that to do stuff to make things, and it didn't do any of that stuff. No, what I thought was, I misread the tea leaves, and I thought that by securing friendship with Bratislava, I would get some happiness. I don't know why I thought that, but I was furthermore enticed by the fact that they're currently doing the gold quest, and I could get extra rep with them. So, having screwed that up, now I need to go looking for somebody to trade luxuries with. I'm thinking I don't have dyes. I don't. And we're back to this business, where I'm going to pay some exorbitant amount of money for dyes. How about 3 and... What an interesting... That's a very interesting... 2 gold per turn, 3 iron per turn... that I'll vote nay on the natural heritage sites and open borders. You know, I don't care about any of that stuff, so it's a deal. Anyway, so completely smitten with this girl. He trims his beard and everything in order to appear younger. And the church curses him, saying that his child is going to be evil. And... well, this one was. Dang, Forbidden Palace. Remember, I wanted to build Forbidden Palace, and now somebody else got it? Arabia. Shucks, golly gee willikers. And I do remember that I was going to go get dynamite. So, oh boy, it is hard to stay in positive happiness with all this non-stop rowing that we're doing. I think, is there any happiness building I can get here? No. Andrew Novo, hey, what's up with you? You could do, like, what do I even want Andrew Novo to do with his life? Well, I guess that if it can't do, if these cities must exist and they're going to increase the size of my culture policies, and really I'm talking about Andronovo and Tamatarcha, then I think I'm going to make sure that they have some culture buildings to pay for themselves. We'll bring this Cossack up here to watch the road. And yeah, this guy too, actually. So, hallelujah, look at this. Land is in sight. And he is willing to give me a city for peace. Now, this is what I'm talking about. I will accept your city. Thank you, and I will puppet it. Nice. Nice, that's a win for me. One less Viking city that I need to destroy, because I do plan on completely wiping the Vikings off the game. Anyway, so you'll have an evil son, he's cursed, and then he gets an infection. You know, of course, that before antibiotics, infections were very serious. He had a boil, the boil went out of control, and he died from it. And this was after getting this little Serbian girl with child. She gave birth to Ivan the Fourth, and then she was, well, I guess she was like Queen Duchess of Muscovy. He was raised in a very confrontational environment where he was simultaneously worshipped by the adults, who were a bunch of sycophants, and their boys, the children of the boyars, would pick on him. So he had a strange childhood where people were simultaneously kissing his ass and picking on him and bullying him. Then, at a tender young age of like 7 or 9 or something, his mom died of, well, under unusual circumstances, and it was generally thought that she was poisoned. And he always thought that she was probably poisoned. So, now he's building up a lot of hate. And specifically poisoned by the boyars, these very people who were causing him so much hell. Let's see. So we're already up to 1555. Killed a Danish spy, very good. Poltavka's gonna fire on this boat. Nearby encampment, which, oh yeah, that's really nearby. I guess it's nearby for you. 76% done on this. Alright, so what else? Let's see. I'm just reading through things here, making sure, because it's a lot of interesting stuff. I don't want to miss anything. And I think I've pretty well got through his childhood. Oh, jeez. And I just lost my place in the years. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So, yes. I'm buying time. Yeah. We'll just skip on with the turns. Okay, there's no barbs down here. Let's check the underside of Tamatarcha. And I forget about this knight because he's hiding underneath the Tamatarcha sign. I guess I'll have him go make some rounds and probably find 1,000,000 barbs down here. Speaking of 1,000,000 barbs, how can we best... I think we'll come around here. to get back to where we're going. And barbs. Dead barbs. Alright.
Hvad det for et forræderi?
Yeah, I forgive you. Don't worry about it, bro. So, coming of age, Ivan IV found a Russia that was way more backwards. Keep in mind, it's, 1550. Europe right now is at the very height of the Renaissance, and they were doing things like circumnavigating the world and advanced astronomy and all kinds of fancy stuff. Great arts and crafts and guilds and everything. And Russia, meanwhile, especially under the autocratic rule of his father, had regressed greatly in terms of arts and crafts and whatnot. So he thought, I need to kind of catch up. I need to establish trade deals with Europe. I need to catch up with them. And he starts making some moves in that direction. Also, about this time, he meets the woman who would become his wife, a lady named Anastasia, and he falls deeply in love with her. And it seems like a really genuine love affair. Alright, so we're not hearing the portrait here of the little kid who pulls wings off flies, right? He's actually seems like a halfway decent young man. And this will all make sense, I think, given a certain amount of time. Barb camp. Friendship's expired. Yeah, so there are barbs down here. Die! Can I move through this? Oh, I have to, embark onto that lake? I do. Wow, that's so awkward. But we'll clean out these barbs down here. So, let's see. There was, shortly after his marriage, a fire which burned through Moscow and burned down a bunch of the city. And Ivan blamed it on the boyars. And he had his opportunity to get some revenge. He had the boyars arrested for causing a fire which burned down the city. And he managed to, therefore, secure his position to a greater extent than he had ever done before. We're talking a young guy, like 17 years old right now. Temitarcha. Let's go for, let's see, what do you got here? You got the watermill. You got an aqueduct yet? Yeah, let's get an aqueduct and build this city up crazy time. We should also do an amphitheater. I should just make sure that every place has got an amphitheater being built. Yep, it's got. I don't think that any other place needs it, so I think we're good. And what else happens? Around 22, at the age of 22, the Tartars, which are the remnants of the Mongols, start raiding Muscovite cities. And he wages a war against the Tartars. And he even manages to get the upper hand and take a very important city, which is like the city which controls the gateway into Tartar lands. I think its name was Kazan. So he takes this city as he's away at war and he's fighting the Tartars, and he takes this city, Kazan, and he comes back. And now he has managed to establish himself not only as the fellow who can get the boyars in line, but he can also protect Moscow and get the Tartars in line and win battles. And he comes back from this war abroad as Ivan the Terrible. He takes the moniker himself because terrible meaning someone who is fierce and ferocious, and that the Tartars at best fear him. So that's how he got this the nomenclature of the Terrible. I wonder if I should just axe this scout or what. Just set him to explore automated and let him go off on his merry way. Alright, so he takes the moniker Ivan the Terrible for himself, and he comes home back to Moscow after this short war where he gained a very important city. He comes back as a hero. Now we're talking about Ivan as a great guy, right? He's doing pretty good. Well, it's around this time that things start to go a little sideways. You start to get the first hints of Ivan the Terrible as kind of a Yeah, he's a terrible dude. Because he has built, in celebration of his victory, the Cathedral of St. Basil. Alright, so, he's from his father, Basil III, of the line of Basils. Remember one of them was a saint? Well, okay, so this is the cathedral built in the honor of that individual. And, wow, barbs. I think we'll pull back a little bit. More barbs. Such barbs. Many barbs. So how do I want to manage this setup up here? Because it's definitely a setup. I think we're going to have this musketman and this pikeman up front. And I'm just wondering, can cannons shoot, not cannons, but artillery, can they shoot 3, across this water here? I wonder, and if so, I need to bring them back anyway to get their dynamite upgrades. Alright, so Poltavka, you don't have nearly enough improvements. Let's do another farm for you. Alright, so yeah, he builds the cathedral to St. Basil, and it's beautiful, and it's so beautiful that he wants to make sure that no other cathedral its equal is ever built. So he does the logical thing, right? He goes and he finds the architect, and he plucks his eyes out. So he's blind, and he can never produce another cathedral that good again. Woohoo! That's crazy, but he does it. Alright. That was in 1555. See, we're real far behind. Great scientist has been born in Shrewsbury. Nice, a great scientist. Right there. And we'll work that. How long until a stinking World's Fair? Alright. And then, in 1560, Anastasia died under mysterious circumstances. And this just brought it all back to Ivan. He remembered his mom dying under similar circumstances. He's always figured she was poisoned. Anastasia, whom he does seem to have honestly loved dearly, now dead by what's probably poison. And this is where he really descends into madness. And he starts going all crazy. Let's see. Do I have a trade quest with anybody? No. What are those? Are those only early game? That they don't happen later on in the game? Okay. So, at this point, he starts getting he gets his revenge. Everyone he thinks is involved, anyone he even suspects was involved in Anastasia's death, is killed. And oftentimes tortured and then killed. And then, in order to keep the boyars, the hated boyars, the boyars who he's been at odds with forever, in order to keep them on edge, what he does is he starts marrying women, bang, 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 and divorcing them, bang, 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 or they're getting suicided themselves. And what this does is it causes, whenever he marries, that woman's family becomes a boyar. And then when he does away with her, they're no longer boyars. So the population of boyars itself is constantly changing at this point. And he uses this as a tool to keep the boyars on edge. Also during this time, he tries to build up English Muscovite alliance. Now, who's the leader of England right now? Queen Elizabeth. And he establishes a lot of trade with her, and then tries to establish a military alliance between the two of them. And Elizabeth rebuffs him. To which he says, you know what, if you won't do an alliance with me, maybe you'll let me marry some English princess? And they said, well, you're currently married to wife number 13 or whatever. He had a ton of wives. He was just cycling through them. And he said, oh, don't worry about that. That can be handled. And the English thought, yeah, we see what you mean by handled. So they rebuffed his further interest in all that business and all that jive. And how many times do I need to tell that cannon to come down here? What do we got here? That, we got Andronova wants, people want things. They're so picky. And I should probably take a look at what the cities are doing. Stinking World's Fair still coming along at 92%. Taking forever to build Cossacks. I should, when are we going to get this hill? You know, I would like to get that hill. Holy smokes! I have been rambling so much I did not notice that I am at 7 unhappiness. Wow, I was really distracted. How much? We got a copper, a fur, and some salt that we can trade with people. Let's go up the line and see what we can trade. Probably nothing with you. But with you, maybe incense. Yeah. And we'll trade furs. So there's one deal. And maybe you got truffles?
今天怎么样？继续。
I don't think you'll have anything. Again, I'm still trying to learn how to read these icons here. I'm thinking that means you've got copper. I don't think that any of these people have anything to trade with me. But I'll just double check some of them. Okay. And of course this guy.
Hola.
Wow, really? So, -3 happiness, that's just no good. And not sure what I can really do about that right now. I don't have enough money to buy the allegiance of any city-states. Well, if there's nothing to do about it, there's nothing to do about it. I mean, I think it's that simple. I should bring Roskilde. I should network these two cities because I move a lot of troops up here, and having a road here would be a dandy. So I'll just start here and build a road to Roskilde. And check, I guess we'll just kind of check this area out. Too bad, I wish I had more money. The money situation kind of hurts. Attack, by all means. Okay, so where was I? Oh yeah, the English. Now in public he was exceedingly pious. He was a very religious person, at least in public, and probably privately too. He would always, you know, when he had people over, he would always pray at great lengths over his meals. He had he said all of the right things to appearing to be an extremely pious fellow. But he was crazy. And, in fact, his piety had a strange, it was a strange double-edged sword, because he would simultaneously build a monastery, and then in that monastery, he would have people tortured and impaled. He really liked impaling people. And what was the other thing boiling people in oil. So yeah, in the basements of these monasteries, he was boiling people to death in oil and impaling them. So that's the kind of religion he was doing here. In one case, people came over, visited him, and when they walked into his, into his Kremlin or whatever, they wouldn't remove their hats because it was some cultural thing. And he said, well, if you love your hats so much, by golly, you're going to keep them forever. So he had the hats stapled on, nailed on. He nailed the hats onto their heads. -3 happiness. And maybe some miracle will happen and we'll have satisfied a city-state quest for incense or whatever it was. Moscow, Poltavka, Vyborg, they all love the king, which means great, they'll reproduce even faster, and I'll have more Russian babies to deal with. How fabulous is that? I can see I'm going to have to prioritize happiness above all else before the next war starts. And that means really that I need to get out from underneath some of these building projects that I'm working on. So let's us take a look at everything that we're building. Poltavka right now is building a Cossack. I could have it build the Circus Maximus after that Cossack. That probably would be the best move there, because it is my second strongest hammer city. Srubna does not have any happiness buildings that it can build. Samaria also does not have anything that it can build. But what can I do for culture? I'm thinking I'm going to put up a wall. And does this city already have a wall? It doesn't. Yeah, it does. Okay. So a wall here. And here we could do a zoo right after that amphitheater. And then we'll do a wall. And this place is working on an aqueduct, which is nice. But let's interrupt that with a zoo and then finish it off with a wall and an observatory. Kind of a strange build order for Tamatarcha. Okay. Where was I? Yes, he was boiling people in oil. And he became extremely paranoid. He started to exhibit all of the symptoms of extreme paranoia. One of the things he would do, man, he could be just downright evil. Keep in mind, there was a very strong belief system. And worse than killing someone was obviously going to hell, or roasting in purgatory. So the Eastern Orthodox faith, if I'm correct in this, also believes in a purgatory, which is someplace where most people go after they die, and it's not just a waiting room. It's not like you're listening to elevator music for a long time. You're actually burning. That's someplace where the common man goes and he burns off his sins, and your stay in purgatory is quite painful because you're receiving the justice of God. You got the forgiveness of God in order to be able to go to heaven eventually. You're not eternally cast into hell. But before then, you're going to suffer the justice, which is the fire of purgatory to expunge the remnants of sin from your soul. And so people who are still alive, they pray for the souls in purgatory in order to shorten the length of time that they're in purgatory. Well, Ivan the Terrible knew all of this, and he believed it. So when he would kill someone, he thought, they're in purgatory right now. And their loved ones are going to be praying for them. Well, I want that soul to burn for as long as possible. So that means I need to stop anybody from paying for
우리는
praying
상의해야
for
할 것이
them.
많고 서로에게 얻을 수 있는 것이 많소.
Sure.
아니하겠소.
Wow. Here, take a piece of iron. So he would hunt down everyone who was praying for the person he'd killed, and he'd kill all of them too. That way nobody could pray for the soul that he had put into purgatory. That's just evil. And around this time he comes up with, this is, it just gets eviler and eviler. He comes up with this organization. He invents this organization which he named the Oprichniks. Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that right. The Oprichniks. Alright, well, I crushed the World's Fair, which means that I get culture increase, an invention. No, culture increase, a social policy, and points towards a golden age. And my people are like, well, that's great, but we still hate you. This Cossack will come up here for doing the war thing. And our policy will be... Jeez. Wish we had something that would make me happy. We don't have anything that'll make me happy, do we? I think we're gonna go with humanism, because then we can get free thought. Yeah. Oh, wow. Jeez, I didn't mean for Ivan the Terrible to run for two episodes. And anyway, I think we're past. Yeah, 1590, Ivan the Terrible's dead. So we're going to go a little bit long here, and I'm going to continue to talk about Ivan the Terrible. And then at the end of this episode, we'll be done with Ivan. And what happens afterwards, I don't know if I really need to go into in-depth with anyway, because, wow, Ivan really was an outsized character. So the Oprichniks. This was a secret police unit that he came up with. And they were sworn only to him. When they joined the secret police, they would say that they would swear to Ivan before even their parents. So these people are sworn only to him, and he dressed them, get this, I'm not making this up, as the Nazgul. Alright? Okay, so the Nazgul hadn't been written yet, but, I mean, you watch Lord of the Rings to see the ring wraiths on black horses with the long black robes. Yes, that was these people. And their job was to go find anyone who might not be loyal to Ivan and torture them to death. So that was the Oprichniks. Really great people there. And, yeah, fabulous folks. They were much loved. Sarcasm. And they were just horrible. In fact, one of the things that they did was they would go up to Boyars and take all of the best land and property and buildings and houses from the Boyars, and then if the Boyars resisted, they would have the Boyars tortured to death. So that was the Oprichniks. Now, at about this time, somebody made a rumor that Novgorod, can I rename you? Right here. I think it's like this. Novgorod. Anyway, Ivan heard a rumor that Novgorod was plotting with the Lithuanians against Moscow. That's all he needed. All he needed was a rumor. So he sets out with the Oprichniks and his army, and each day the army marches completely oblivious to where they're going. They have no idea where they're going. In fact, so much so that he keep his own army in the dark, that every day he gave a new map to the army. So the army had no idea where they were going. And they start heading towards Novgorod. And any individual he came across them, oh, la-da-da, I'm out taking care of my field. Look, an army. The army would kill this person because they needed to travel in utter secrecy. This guy was paranoid as a freak. And, yeah. What do we have here for experience? We'll do something like that. And we'll move these guys down to watch the flanks. I'm so glad you're happy with me, Denmark. Anyway, when they got to Novgorod, and now mind you, Novgorod is not an enemy city. Remember, Basil III annexed all of Novgorod's duchy into the Grand Duchy of Moscow, which at this point I think is being called Russia. I'm not exactly sure when it gets the name Russia. It just, all of a sudden, the historical documents start calling it Russia. I'll look that up. I'll get back to you in the next episode when Russia officially came to be. Anyway, so Novgorod has been annexed, and the city of Novgorod is Ivan's city. It's not an enemy city, it's his. And he arrives with his army, and they burn it. They rape all the women, they pillage the place, they steal everything, they kill all the men, they wreck this town. And sitting in... Ivan was there. This was all by his orders. Sitting in this burning city that's his own city, he's like, I might have gone too far. And he has kind of an epiphany, like an awakening. You see this lucid moment come back to Ivan. And in the background, Tartars have gotten up to Moscow and have burned Moscow. And maybe it was the combination of the two things, like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have destroyed all these people in Novgorod, and look at what's happening to Moscow right now. Maybe I'm the messed up one. So he goes back to Moscow, the Tartars flee, he puts Moscow back into order, and he starts making sensible policies for a little while. He stops the torturing, he stops the killing. he dismisses the Oprechniks, so they no longer exist, and he retreats into the Kremlin and just starts haunting the innermost chambers, literally by candlelight, like not even getting close to windows. And he stops all of his crazy activities for a little while. That was in 1570 that he heard that Novgorod might be planning something, and in 1575 he'd retreated back to the Kremlin. Oh, I'm going to get a goodnight kiss. Night kiss?
My bread.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want me to punch it down and give it?
No, I'll take care of all that. Good night. Alright, so yeah, 1575 he retreats into the shadows of the Kremlin. Yes, well, I'm friends with people. I guess I'm friends with a lot of people. Most civilizations at this point have forgiven me for my error of my ways early on. Okay, so at this point, he really seems to be trying to turn over a new leaf, and he prays harder and harder and harder and harder, but he just can't get away from that. Once you torture, I guess you just can't get away from it. He starts torturing people again, he starts killing people again, and he prays harder and harder and harder, and he's scheduling more and more masses at the same time that he starts to torture again. And you know what I'm hearing here? This is my take on what's happening here. This guy can't help himself from this vice. He has developed a vice of torturing and killing people. And so he's probably going to confession all the time. He's probably, goes to confession, confesses torturing somebody to death, and then, before sunset, he's given in and tortured somebody else. And he's like, man, now I got to go back to confession and confess that I tortured somebody else to death. I'm thinking that's what's happening here. Anyway, so he's becoming extremely pious. At the same time, he's torturing people faster and harder and faster. Now, at this time, one of the last horrible things that he ever did, he comes into one of the rooms in the Kremlin, and he finds he's got two sons. Okay, he's got an older son and a younger son. The younger son has got a problem. He's retarded. The older son is the heir, and he has already taken a wife because he has become. Both of these boys have become men of age. So his son has got this wife, and Ivan comes into a room and meets the wife, and they're talking, and he realizes that this woman is only wearing one chemise. Is that the right way you pronounce it? Chemise? So she's only wearing this one thing, and etiquette requires that you wear three. So she's not dressed modestly enough for Ivan's tastes, and he becomes outraged and he hits her. And at this point, his son, this lady's husband, comes in and defends the honor of his wife, yelling at his father, Ivan the Terrible, saying, how could you hit my wife? How could you hit her? How could you hit her? And he, at this point, it's a little unclear what he killed his son with, either a cudgel or a spear, but he kills his son right there, boom, dead. And that was the lowest that Ivan ever sunk. So he has now murdered his son, and he spends the last few days, I guess he sinks at this point into some kind of despair. He's in great agony of some kind of pain that he keeps reporting to the doctors. The doctors have no idea how to deal with this pain. He's been dealing with pain all his life, but now at the end of his life, the pain is acute. It's crippling. And he finally just dies. Of apparently no reason at all. Well, who becomes the Grand Duke of Moscow? Well, he just killed his oldest son right before his death. Well, so that means his younger son is now Duke, and this fellow is retarded. So Thus begins what the Russians called the Time of Troubles. That will be in the next episode, but I want to say that there have been a couple of things which have been figured out in later years. By the way, if you happen to watch the Ivan the Terrible epic rap battle of history, you'll note Ivan the Terrible died while he was setting up a game of chess, and he just died, and he fell over dead. But yeah, they make mention of the fact that he died while setting the chessboard. Anyway, so modern science has exhumed the body of Ivan the Terrible. They wanted to figure out what made this guy so terrible. What did he die from? He just died. Okay, they were able to... And what was his pain that he suffered from his entire life, which became so crippling at the end that he could barely move? Well, they figured it all out. The fellow had rheumatoid arthritis. And because of that, that was the pain, and that was what was crippling him at the end. And I believe he died of the arthritis. Anyway, he had had this pain his entire life. It started in his early 20s. And he had been taking a painkiller for it the entire time. That painkiller contained mercury. He had mercury poisoning. Mercury poisoning makes you insane. And it makes you homicidally insane. So that's the mystery of Ivan the Terrible. Alright, so we've run long, and my empire's all screwed up because I was so caught up in the history. We've got dynamite. We'll go finish off industrialization now. We will promote these guys into artillery as soon as we can. We're still unhappy, and there's still probably nothing I can trade in order to get anything.
往下说。
Is there anything I could give you for that? Furs? That would be an even trade, though,
你
wouldn't it?
认为这个要求能接受吗？
How many furs do I have? I got one. Yeah, that would be an even trade, so that doesn't help. It's funny that you're even willing to talk about trading that, though.
当然不行。
Well, I should have done that a long time ago. Alright, so at least I'll be saving the game at a point where... Nice. Where everything is good. I'm in the green. And we've got the constabulary coming along. Why can't I build the Brandenburg? Oh, because somebody else is building the Brandenburg Gate. Right? Somebody yeah, right here. Oh, and I especially want this place to have the Brandenburg Gate because it gets the plus 15 experience. So let's figure out what Novgorod should not Novgorod. What, Moscow should do. It really can't do anything particularly well. So I guess it'll just do a bank. Yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else to figure out right now. We had fun. I had fun anyway with Ivan the Terrible. If you like this episode, please click like and click subscribe for more episodes, because Russia is just now getting started. Russia is a really cool civilization, and we've had to go through tons of archaeology and then, quiet little empires. It ramped up a step then when we were able to do things like the Kingdom of Samaria, and we were able to do Rostov and places like that. But it's kicked up a big step now. We went up a big step with Ivan the Terrible, and we're going to have a bunch more. We're going to have Catherine the Great, we're going to have Stalin, we're going to have all kinds of interesting, and I'm going to talk about Bolshevik Revolution, and we're going to talk about Lenin, we're going to talk about Marxism, we're going to talk about Leninism and communism. We will adopt communism in this game, and we'll have a lot of fun doing all of that. So, thank you very much, and you have a good night.